Good morning, Dan and Amy and another Amy, Coney Barrett, on Saturday.
I love the United States, and I love the United States Constitution.
That's a good start.
Yeah, it is.
And then you put together a outstanding, really almost unparalleled legal career around it, and you wind up on the Supreme Court, even though a place you never expected to be, and perhaps at a relatively young age, very young age, considering the court. Also, she might not have expected to be there, but for the aid of all of these politicians who are wont to characterize or suborn the characterization of her as some sort of religious zealot. Because if it weren't for Harry Reid nuking the filibuster on district court judges in 2013, if it weren't for the threat to filibuster the Gorsuch nomination and every other Trump nomination, if it weren't for the exchange with Di-Fi during her confirmation hearing for the Seventh Circuit, if it wasn't for what Democrats did in the Kavanaugh confirmation hearing and fight, there's a very good chance that Amy Coney Barrett, not only would she not be a Supreme Court justice, which she's going to be, she wouldn't be on the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. So thank you, Democrats, or for those Democrats who are just aghast at what has transpired. You have yourselves to thank. Maybe that's a better way to put it. Amy Coney Barrett is, as I mentioned before, but bears repeating, Harvard Law School professor Noah Feldman. I disagree with much of her judicial philosophy, but he concludes, I'm going to be confident that Barrett is going to be a good justice, maybe even a great one, even if I disagree with her all the way. Yeah, that's sort of from the Scalia-Ginsburg school of how you deal in adjudicating legal matters and how you conceive of people who disagree with you philosophically on particular issues. This from an op-ed, or in addition to, I should say, an op-ed from Nicole Garnett, who is a professor of law at the University of Notre Dame. I've known Amy Coney Barrett for over 20 years. Her intellect and heart are unrivaled. Since joining the faculty at Notre Dame, she has made her mark as a leading constitutional law scholar and one of the best and most challenging teachers. Students quickly learn to be prepared to answer tough questions about subjects ranging from the evidentiary issues in the movie My Cousin Vinny, it's a great case study, to the complexities of statutory law interpretation. They are all in awe of her, which is honestly more than a little humbling for the rest of us professors.
And for a lot of people that weren't crazy about Trump in 2016, they were single-issue voters, meaning they wanted to put him in office so that he could appoint Supreme Court justices and other judges, because he has done that.
Yesterday, I was very proud to nominate Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the United States Supreme Court.
And there's thousands of others that he has nominated. Not for the Supreme Court, but for other
hundreds
circuit court judges
in the district, federal district and appellate court level, yes. Another 4 years, and he's brought some balance back to the courts because they had tilted so far, especially the appellate courts had tilted far left, but he's 6 appointments to the circuit court later, and he's starting to balance them out. Obviously, 3 Supreme Court justices as well to his record. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Randy Barnett, Georgetown law professor, author of Our Republican Constitution, Securing the Liberty and Sovereignty of We the People. He loves this country, and he loves the Constitution, too. Randy, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me on. I always like this show, and I'm teaching early this morning, but I'm squeezing you guys in before I have to teach at 8 a.m. Eastern Time.
We appreciate that. Are you willing? Are you going to be covering My Cousin Vinny in class today?
It's my second favorite Lawyers movie. I did used to show it to my students as well.
And Inherit the Wind is first. To Kill a Mockingbird. Which?
Actually, I don't care for either of those two movies. But Anatomy of a Murder is my first
Jimmy Stewart
favorite Lawyers. Yes,
very good, very good. That's a good choice.
And
right.
not to take anything away from Amy, but how about that Nick Foles?
Yeah.
188 yards in the fourth quarter. Yes, impressive. But Dan doesn't watch football anymore.
I don't.
So I watch it for him.
Yeah,
and then he
Okay,
never
all
wants
right.
to
Well,
hear about the highlights.
let's just move on. But I am a diehard Bears fan, and to be a Bears fan, you need to die hard.
Very
So
good. Yes.
let's move back to the subject at hand here.
All right. So the nomination of Amy Coney Barrett and how that's being received in the legal community, including the professorate of which you're a part.
Well, I'm quarantined in Central Virginia like everyone else, so therefore I don't see anybody except my wife and my 92-year-old mom and my 97-year-old father-in-law who we're caring for. But I'm a huge fan of Amy. I know her and think she was a terrific pick. She's everything that the people that are praising her say she is. Really smart. She will be intellectually able to hold her own with the best of the justices, and that means doing one-on-one with Elena Kagan when necessary, and schooling some of her more conservative brethren when that's necessary. She's great. Now, I just want to say, she and I do not agree about everything. She wrote she was invited to do a symposium on my book, Our Republican Constitution, and wrote a piece in which she agreed with some of what I said and disagreed with the thrust of what I was arguing for, which was against judicial deference to legislatures. She's much more in the Scalia mold than I am with respect to judicial deference and stare decisis and precedent. And what she's going to be criticized for, what she's been criticized for in the last news cycle, are her views on the Affordable Care Act. I don't know if you're following that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that she expressed those views in that article, criticizing my approach, but saying she understands why I was disappointed in Chief Justice Roberts' view in the Obamacare case, because she shares the view that was a bad ruling. So that's what she's getting hammered for. Where she agreed with me is where she's getting hammered for.
Well, and just on that topic, since this is what Democrats are caterwauling about, this is about overturning Obamacare. That case that's coming before the court next term, it may not be the strongest case. There may be even a question about the state's ability, led by Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, to present a harm to the states that would merit adjudication in their direction, merit a decision in their direction. What's your handle on the strength of the case that's even before the court, the likelihood that that's not going to change much about Obamacare legally?
Well, I'd rather not opine too much on that.
Okay.
Let me just say that I think that the argument that's being made is an interesting one, a good one. It's at least, I think half of it's going to prevail. That is, I think that since the tax was zeroed out, the saving construction of Justice Roberts is no longer available to save the rest of the Affordable Care Act. But the case is going to turn on the issue of severability and whether the zeroed out tax or penalty provision can be separated or severed from the rest of the act. That's really what the argument's going to be about. I'm a lot less confident about how that decision is going to go. And I don't think this, first of all, she doesn't need to recuse herself because she expressed an opinion about a case that has been decided. After all, if she has to do that, then she's not going to be able to opine about anything at the upcoming hearings. They can't ask her about any case ever.
Yeah, of course.
Because if that's going to disqualify her, and I don't see any reason to think I don't know that there's 5 votes now for that challenge, and I don't know that her vote would change it. Nor do I think she's particularly anxious to sit on that case.
Well,
so if she recused herself, even though she doesn't have to, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, but that severability issue, not to get too into the weeds, but since this is an important case and you want to temper expectations here in the public, that severability issue, there's been some recent cases that are sort of on point with the severability issue, even though they're not Obamacare related. And you've had Kavanaugh as well as Alito essentially addressing the severability issue in a way that would uphold Obamacare if they addressed it similarly in the Obamacare case.
I take your word for that. One of the reasons I don't like opining about this case is because I'm not an expert on severability doctrine, and that's what I think the case turns on. So I'm as interested in hearing your view on that as I am giving an opinion on that.
All right. I wanted to get to one other thing. We spoke with John Lott about this last week, this dissent that she wrote, 37-page dissent she wrote, which I actually did read, in a gun case in Wisconsin. And it's such a, I mean, this is what people are talking about when they talk about her legal mind and the historical context she gives and just the depth that she goes into, 37-page dissent to provide some opportunity for depth. And I just thought one of the arguments she made is such an important argument. It sort of I could feel Scalia's mind working there too, or his mentorship influencing her. But the idea that this idea all felons are banned from owning guns. She argues that the law in Wisconsin was both over-inclusive and at the same time under-inclusive. It was over-inclusive. It includes nonviolent crimes that should be treated perhaps different than other felonies. It was also under-inclusive in that it doesn't contemplate misdemeanor charges that may give rise to a consideration for banning gun ownership because of the public threat, the threatening of the public that's was connected to a particular misdemeanor charge. And I think it's sort of those types of opinions that have won her plaudits from Noah Feldman from Harvard all the way to the more expected sources like conservative law professors and students and judges.
Well, it's a very middle of the road position that she's taking here, and just to fill in the missing piece that your listeners may not know, is it's about felons in possession laws, which ban felons from having firearms. And her argument is that what the state is entitled to do is to keep firearms out of the hands of demonstrably dangerous people. That's something that's within the police power of the states. When regulating the right to keep and bear arms, you have to be demonstrably dangerous. And some felonies don't involve any danger to the public, and some other indicia of danger, like misdemeanors, are not included. That's the over-inclusive, under-inclusive. But notice, she doesn't take for granted that there's a felons in possession exception just because it was mentioned in Heller. That's number one, which is a good sign. Mm-hmm. That paragraph by Justice Scalia was not his finest hour. Might have been put there for Justice Kennedy. Who knows? Secondly, she is protective of gun rights, but thirdly, she allows, as I think all judges today would allow, that gun rights, like all other rights, can be regulated, but those regulations need to be reasonable insofar as they're not just being put in place because people in power don't like the right and wish to discourage its exercise or raise the cost of exercising that right.
Right. No, I appreciate that explanation. But I mean, this is the sort of opinion, though, sort of the measure, right? The measure, the restraint that I think people are suggesting you get used to hearing and seeing from Amy Coney Barrett.
Yeah, and also, I mean, for somebody who's a gun owner and a concealed carry permit holder, I am actually, this is an issue that I care about, and I'm going to judge judicial nominees on whether they care about it. And like many of the judges that Donald Trump put on the bench, she understands the Second Amendment is a real thing, and lower court judges are engaged in civil disobedience against the Supreme Court on this issue. So let me just say that people always ask me what I think how her presence on the court is going to change things. Mostly, I won't predict because I don't know. In this case, I'll predict that I think that the justices are now going to step in. There is now a fifth vote for stepping in and starting to discipline lower court judges to follow Heller, follow McDonald, and protect the individual right to arms.
And she meets the Randy Barnett rule, which is she has a record on this issue, so you can anticipate where she'll be on the high court. Professor Randy Barnett, Georgetown law professor, author of Our Republican Constitution, Securing the Liberty and Sovereignty of We the People. Randy Barnett, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Take care.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's what Chicago is talking about. It's Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy on AM 560. The Answer.
The Rollins Jewelers family believes this November is the most important election in our nation's history. Of course, they're right. Rollins supports President Trump and all Americans in keeping America safe and great. I really love these guys.